topics and opinions expressed in the following show are solely those of the host and their guests and not those of W4CY Radio, its employees, or affiliates. We make no recommendations or endorsements for radio show programs, services, or products mentioned on air or on our web. No liability, explicit or implied, shall be extended to W4CY Radio or its employees or affiliates. Any questions or comments should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for choosing W4CY Radio.
Welcome to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV, where we bring you educational information from top local experts in the fields of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. Now sit back and listen to experts in family law, association law, hearing loss, business brokers, home care, along with many other topics. Now here are your hosts, Steve-O and Sophia.
Hey, good morning, Florida. Welcome to another Ask the Expert show, where for the last 16 years, we have brought you the finest experts in the field of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. This morning's show, our first show this morning, has become so popular. We started off, it was a Tampa show, and then we moved it to a Florida show. Then we moved it to twice a month show. It's just because of your emails. I would have to say this is one of the most trusted companies, Provise Management Group, and you can tell because the people who write, the first thing they say is, we really trust the knowledge of Provise Management Group and Ray Ferrara. Good morning, Ray.
Well, good morning, Steve, and welcome to chilly Florida. Getting chilly.
Yes. Yeah, it's, I don't know, you're in the Tampa area. I'm in the Fort Lauderdale area. It's supposed to get down to 40s tonight,
Yeah.
which for some people, that's almost like summer to them, but that is cold.
First day in a sweater.
Yeah, so it's cold there.
It's chilly. It's in the high 50s, and temperature is going down from here.
Wow.
I know the people.
Well, Ray,
up north. I'm sorry. I know the people up north don't think much of 59 being chilly and going down, but it's chilly this morning and windy. So we got a lot of territory to cover
I started
today.
to tell you, we got inundated by text this morning, and I'm a news hound. So the first thing I read is the president wants to give everybody a dividend check of $2,000. But then Scott Besson came on and said, no, we're going to use that money to pay down the debt. Have you heard anything on either of those fronts?
Only what you've heard and read in the in the news. The first thing is that I'm not sure that the president nor the Secretary of the Treasury is capable of doing either of those things without congressional approval. And as we've seen, Congress can disagree, and so we've got a long way to go on that. The biggest issue to that is although it's nice to say there's going to be a dividend or like that, the fact of the matter is whatever excess we have really needs to go down to pay our debt as much as we possibly can. But even now, that would not take an act of Congress if we kept whatever money we've accumulated through the tariffs and used it to pay down the debt. But to provide a, quote, dividend somehow and a tax benefit, that is going to require congressional approval.
Well, I got to tell you, I'm more worried about the Supreme Court voting the tariffs down. And I guess we would have to refund all these countries. Is that correct?
Well, an interesting question, and a more interesting thought is, how do I do that? So the tariff is actually paid by the company that is here in the United States, who passes that along to the country. But because of the tariffs, prices have gone up. And so the question is, ultimately, those tariffs, or a good portion of those tariffs, are being paid by consumers. And how do you get that money back to the consumers? I can't think of any way that that's going to happen. So it's the horns of a dilemma. At this point, we'll have to see what the Supreme Court does. Most people think that the Supreme Court will, if it does rule against it, will not delay with a verdict because of the very question that's being asked. How do you unwind it?
Right.
The longer we wait to get an answer from the Supreme Court, the more likely it is that they're leaning towards approving the tariffs. Having said all of that, there clearly was an interesting set of questions asked by both the liberal wing of the Supreme Court as well as the conservative side. And the initial indications seem to be that the judges are leaning towards not saying saying that the president does not have the ability to raise the tariffs without Congress's approval. Maybe a way out is for Congress to retrospectively approve the tariffs. I don't know if there's an ability to retrospectively approve a tariff, but that might be a way of this while the Republicans still control the House and the Senate. But we're going to have to wait and see. Clearly, I don't think we'll have to wait until May or June to get a ruling from the Supreme Court. I think we may even get something before the end of the year.
Yeah, I agree. The second biggest question is the Senate has completed a procedural vote to end the government shutdown. What does that mean, and what is that going to cost us? And whose fault is it, Ray?
Well, clearly, depending on your political point of view, it's that person's fault, and that's not pointing at me. That's pointing at each other. Right. It is unfortunate that this has occurred. Let me talk about the politics last, and let me just say that this shutdown has been very expensive. It has been very for the economy. It has been alarmingly difficult on many individuals, not only those that work for the government that haven't been paid, but all the downstream people that rely on government funding. So the concern that I have at this point, considering that the shutdown spent the entire month of October, just about the entire month of October, in shutdown mode and early November, is that it's going to have a real hit to the gross national product, due to the GDP for the fourth quarter, and may even cause it to be negative. Now, I wouldn't be worried about that if that's the case, and this is assuming that they reopen the government, because there should be a rebound as people start to get money that they didn't have to spend in the first quarter of next year. So we're going to have to see how that unfolds. The proposal that's been put forward is only keeping the government open until November. Excuse me, to the end of January next year. And now in November, assuming that this Republican proposal it continues to be advanced, and it has to get through the House. So we have to see what political games might be played there going back to the House. But hopefully our representatives realize they've got to get back to doing the work of the people, and that they've got to get this thing settled, begin the debate on health care, which they have 6 weeks to quote unquote solve. But I don't think you're going to get it done in 6 weeks. So still a lot of controversy going forward. As to whose fault it is, I think both parties are going to suffer as a result of it. But as you look at the compromise that may have been reached as a result of this procedural vote, it essentially is passing the clean resolution for the next roughly 90 days, and not even that, roughly 75 days. And so the Democrats, it appears, and we haven't seen the final package yet, but it appears that the Democrats got no promises in return. And if they were the ones that capitulated, and I'm saying if they were the ones that capitulated, then they will probably have more backlash than will the Republicans. But I believe it's going to happen on both sides of the aisle.
Ray, why does it always feel like we're always constantly just kicking the can down the road?
Well, the answer is if I can find a Band-Aid to put on the wound and kick the can down the road, then it becomes somebody else's problem and maybe not mine, unfortunately. And I mean, kicking the can down the road on the budget is one thing, but there's lots of things that they've kicked the road down or kicked the can down the road. You could say that they've done that on immigration. You could say that they have done that on Social Security. You can say they've done that as it relates to our national debt. So there's a lot of things that they've kicked down the road, and delaying does not solve the problem. And in my mind, most of the time it exacerbates the problem and just makes it that much more difficult to figure out how to solve it. As a result of all of this, it has a direct bearing on our economy, and it is not a positive bearing. It's a negative bearing. And so, to me, it's time for all of the representatives in the House and the senators in the Senate to get off their collective butts and do the job that they were elected to do, and that is to help run the government and develop a budget so that we can get on with the business of making America being back on track to get the economy going.
Yeah, I agree. In light of the shutdown, what do you see the Fed's doing at its next meeting in 4 weeks?
Well,
Any
the Fed.
changes?
Yeah, well, the Fed has been without data in the same way that we have now during the entire shutdown. There's 2 jobs reports that have been delayed. They probably won't be as complete as they could be anyway, because I'm sure that many people did not respond to the automatic request for information during the shutdown. So it's going to take the Fed time to unravel it. I think that the Fed will consider that the damage to the economy as a further result of the shutdown will deem for them to reduce it another quarter of a point, and then probably hold fast until we get into next year, and maybe at the second meeting next year taking some further action. I think they'll then allow time for the data to catch up with time. So I would not be surprised and would anticipate another rate cut in December, about 4 weeks away, and that clearly will be to just give a little extra shot of adrenaline to the economy.
Do you find a lot of people are concerned about the volatility of the past few weeks, where we're headed long term? Like, what is the trend going to be, and should they get out of the market?
Well, first of all, let me say you should not get out of the market. Time and many times over, people have tried to, quote, time the market, get out at the top, get back in at or near the bottom. It's never worked on a consistent basis. Have some people managed to get out at the top? Yep. And if some people managed to get back in at the bottom? Yep. But to do that on a consistent basis is a fool's game. What you do need to do is to continue to reallocate the portfolio. Basically, what you want to do, Stephen, is to sell your winners and buy your losers. Now, I know that sounds counterintuitive, but you want to sell the things that have gone up to buy the things that are lower price. That's, a really novel concept. Sell high, buy low. Most people keep buying higher and higher and higher and higher, and then when it goes low, they sell. So, when we go to the grocery store, we all look for those BOGOs. We all look for things on sale. But when stocks go down, people have a tendency to sell. And when stocks are expensive, people have a tendency to buy. We want to do just the opposite. If one carefully looks at the market over not just this past year, but if you look at it over the past 4 or 5 years, the market has been driven by the tech stocks, and particularly the last 3 years, by those tech stocks that are involved with artificial intelligence or AI. They've gotten way ahead of themselves. It was time for them to have a little retrenchment, which has occurred over the last couple of weeks in the market. And so it's made it look like the market has been volatile. The fact is the stocks underneath of the tech stocks have held up pretty well over the last couple of weeks. And we would anticipate that that'll continue to happen for a while as people reassess exactly what AI is really all about. We haven't even begun to see the benefits of AI yet. We're in the very early stages of what its influence might be. But the stocks that are going to benefit from that are way ahead of where they are in relation to where we are with AI. So I would say look for continued volatility in the market as it relates to mostly the tech arena, and look for the rest of the market to kind of hold its own between now and the end of the year, unless some crazy news comes out. That would be our anticipation.
At the beginning of the show, I said how much our audience loves and trusted you. Here's a note from Barbara in Tallahassee. My husband and I are planning to divorce after 12 years of marriage. We love each other. We just can't live together. What is the best way from a financial standpoint for us to end the marriage but remain friends? See how much they trust you, Ray?
Barbara, let me say to you, I'm very sorry about the divorce. Having just celebrated my 55th wedding anniversary a few weeks ago, I can tell you from personal experience how difficult it is to be married for a long period of time. It's not easy. But if you all have decided to break the marriage up at this point, then perhaps that was what will be best for you. And even better, you say you want to remain friends, which, let me say to you, is a very difficult thing to do when it comes to divorce. Not that you all don't want to, but the lawyers make more money in divorces because they create controversy and they create distrust between spouses. Because the longer they can prolong it, the more they're going to make and the less you and your husband are going to have, which is one of the reasons that we support the collaborative divorce process. And in the collaborative divorce process, each of you are going to have a lawyer. All four of you are going to sign a contract as to what will happen and how it will happen. And if any one of the four breaks the contract, then nobody gets paid. The lawyers don't get paid. You all are going to spend more money finally settling it someplace else, perhaps in court. So look for a lawyer that will participate in the collaborative process. It'll also involve hiring a financial neutral, somebody who will opine on the fairness of how to divide the money, because you can divide it equally, but it may not be equitable. And what do I mean? How's that possible? Well, let's just take a simple IRA. If you chose not to divide the IRA between the two spouses, and one spouse is going to take all of it and another one is going to take a different set of assets, each, let's say, is worth $500,000. The $500,000 that comes out of the IRA is going to be taxable, and therefore it's going to be worth something less than $500,000, where the other assets, maybe stocks, et cetera, will only be taxed at a capital gain rate, top capital gain rate of 20%, plus perhaps Obamacare tax. So work with a collaborative divorce attorney. Hopefully your husband will agree to do that as well. Believe that will allow you to have the most amicable way to separate financially and still remain friends.
Wow. You should be a divorce counselor too.
No, Stephen, we have done over the years at Provise a lot of work in the divorce area, unfortunately, and the lawyers that know we're involved in the divorce proceeding hate it, because we're going to do everything we can to get it over as quickly as we possibly can. We're going to try to convince people to put their emotions back in their pockets and to figure out a way to do this in the best way possible for everybody. And Stephen, let me take just a moment. We haven't talked about it at all, but at Provise, we always offer the listeners of Ask the Expert a 1-hour consultation that is complimentary. You can do it in our Clearwater office or Tampa office, or if you're outside of the Tampa Bay area, certainly by Zoom. And all you have to do is give us a call at 1-800-633-3049. That's 1-800-633-3049, and say, I want to take advantage of that complimentary 1-hour session, and we'll be delighted to schedule it with one of our 14 certified financial planners.
And next month, we'll get back on schedule. Ray does the first Monday of the month and the third Monday of the month. Ray, as always, we are so lucky to have Provise and you educating our listeners every month. Have a wonderful Thanksgiving, and we'll see you next month.
See you later, Stephen. Thank you very much.
You bet, buddy. Bye-bye. And that's Ray Ferrara, Provise. We're going to go to a break. We'll be right back.
Thanks for tuning in today to the Ask the Expert show on W4CY Radio and Talk4 TV. Tune in next week and every week to hear more from our experts on personal injury, insurance, air condition repairs, estate planning, Medicare, and many other topics in the areas of legal, health, financial, and home improvement. See you next week.